Thank you. Good afternoon and welcome to all, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues and friends, to this Mediterranean preparatory webinar for preparing the Mediterranean input to the World Conference, UN Conference on ESD in the coming days, actually. So it is a very great pleasure having this on behalf of the Mediterranean Committee on Education for Sustainable Development. And before giving the floor to our chair, Dr. Arabella Zachariou, let me give some housekeeping notes making. First of all, the meeting is simultaneously interpreted. We have simultaneous interpretation in English and French. And those who wish to follow the French language, please click the button at the bottom of your screen and change the channel. The meeting is recorded. Allow us to record it in order to capture all for preparing the outcome and sharing it with you. And of course, you are welcome to have your cameras on. It will be nice to see you even having the chance to meet even virtually. To avoid background noise, all participants are automatically muted as they enter the meeting. So without saying more, I would like to kindly ask Dr. Arabella Zachariou. As you know, Cyprus is chairing the committee at the moment, and it is a great pleasure to have Arabella with us. And Arabella also is chairing the steering committee of the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe on ESD. So she will combine perhaps her input here, because later on she will take the floor as Cyprus. But now as chair or combined chairs. Arabella.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Sure. Yes.
Thank you, dear Michael. I apologize for speaking with Michael so personally, but except from a great colleague, he's a very good friend. Thank you for your introduction. In these few minutes, I would like to express first my gratitude to the Mediterranean Information Office, and more specifically to you, Michael, dear Professor Skoulos, for organizing this webinar, aiming to inform the members of the Mediterranean Steering Committee and the rest of the participants from the Mediterranean region about the upcoming UNESCO ESD conference for the new strategic plan for ESD 2030. I think that this webinar is a great opportunity for all of us, not only to inform about the UNESCO ESD 2030 roadmap, but to discuss also how and in which ways the ESD Mediterranean Action Plan can operate as a dynamic regional process for integrating the new challenges and priorities of ESD in the Med countries. And of course, through the Mediterranean Action Plan, to see how we can facilitate Mediterranean countries to integrate the key priorities areas of UNESCO ESD Roadmap 2030 more effectively. ESD Mediterranean Action Plan, which launched in Nicosia 2016, reflects the vision of the Med countries to work together for creating more resilient, just, and sustainable societies in our region. Med Action Plan is a result of a collective work, co-decision and commitment between us, the countries in the Mediterranean, that we are working together to infuse ESD in all aspects of life, social, political, and cultural, and bring the peace, the stability in our home, in our ecos, as we said in Greek, which is the Mediterranean. Since 2016, a lot of achievements on ESD indicated within the implementation of ESD Med Action Plan, which has to do with the formal, non-formal, and informal education. This reflected in the 2 meetings that we organized with the Mediterranean Information Office, the Cyprus government, the Mediterranean Office, the 2 meetings of the ESD Mediterranean Committee in 2017 and 2019 in Nicosia and in Crete, which provided the opportunity to all the Mediterranean countries to present the progress of ESD Med Action Plan in their context. Also, the ESD Mediterranean Action Plan operates as a platform of communication and interaction between the various stakeholders of our region to discuss and decide about the next steps of ESD implementation. The 2 preceding volumes, which already published for the ESD Med Action Plan implementation in the Med countries, is a proof of a good work that we are doing in the field. It's very important to note that ESD Mediterranean Action Plan incorporates the pillars of UNESCO ESD GAP and also UNEC ESD strategy. And this is because its aim is to operate as a supportive mechanism in the region that can facilitate the integration of UNESCO pillars on ESD and, of course, the key priority areas of the UNEC. In this framework and taking in consideration the challenges that we are facing globally, and more particularly in our region, the challenges of peace, climate change, biodiversity, water, equity, reveals that our work within the ESD Mediterranean Action Plan is critical for the implementation of SDGs in our region. UNESCO ESD 2030 conference is organized in a period which the humanity faces critical challenges, which are not only health challenges and health crises, but also is an environmental crisis. UNESCO conference in this period of emergency, complexity and insecurity can operate as a great platform, even by distance, with this meeting, with this global meeting, to share our thoughts, express our aspirations, but mainly to bring us together for undertaking action for creating better, resilient, coherent societies. The UNESCO conference can operate as a wake-up call for all the people, independently of the age, color, region, ethnicity, in all over the world, and mobilizing us to work for implementing and achieving the 5 priorities areas. Before concluding, I would like to mention that having the honor to chairing the Mediterranean ESD Steering Committee on behalf of the Republic of Cyprus, I would like to assure that the ESD Mediterranean Committee will work closely with UNESCO and other international mechanisms such as UNICE, UNEP, UNESCO Venice Office to upgrade the Mediterranean Action Plan according to the new objectives, tasks, and pillars for ESD 2030. This roadmap succession is a joint task. It is our great opportunity to activate more concretely SDGs within education implementation. At the end, and after a consultation having with MIO, which is the secretariat of the committee, I would like to propose the ESD Mediterranean Action Plan and ESD Mediterranean Steering Committee to participate as a region in the initiative of UNESCO ESD initiative. This means that Mediterranean region can operate as a whole, a regional example that will work jointly for achieving UNESCO ESD 2030. The Cyprus government, and after, of course, I received the approval by the minister, in collaboration with MIO, proposed to publish during this and the next years 5 specific volumes referred on how the 5 priority areas of UNESCO ESD roadmap integrated through the ESD Mediterranean Action Plan. Each edition for each a key priority will give a whole view and concrete results on how the Mediterranean countries working for integrating the vision of ESD 2030. Finally, I would like to conclude with this brief, but at the same time important message for this webinar. The Mediterranean is our home, our countries are our neighborhoods. Education for sustainable development is the key driver to protect, making our region better. The environment, sustainable development unite us. UNESCO ESD 2030 roadmap can strengthen our work in the region and can support us to work more intensively for achieving this meta alliance on ESD, which can bring us together. Thank you. The floor is to you, Michael. Pass to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Arabella. I thank the chair. And I would like to, it is not the moment to explain what we have done in the activities, but since Arabella mentioned some of the meetings, I would like to say that the excellent initiative we had with the invitation of the Parliament of Cyprus was continued, as you may remember, with the meeting in the Parliament of Morocco. And we hope that this tradition, bringing ESD at the highest level of decision makers, will continue also with other parliaments after COVID. Without saying more, I would like to remind you of the objectives of the meeting, as these objectives have been already circulated. These objectives are, in fact, to assist the preparations of Mediterranean ESD community for the upcoming World Conference on ESD. So this may help also the delegations of the Mediterranean countries. Unfortunately, several countries have informed us that they will like to get the information they couldn't attend, but this information is going to be passed to all the Mediterranean countries, even if not all of them attend today. Second is to provide the opportunity to countries and stakeholders to share views and highlight practices and plans for the way ahead, very, very briefly, of course, and provide valuable elements for the drafting of a message by the Mediterranean Committee on ESD to the World Conference that is going to be prepared by the Secretariat and shared with all the members of the committee. And it is a great achievement what we have with this committee. I remind everybody that the committee includes UNESCO both in Paris and from the Office on Science and Culture of Venice, the UNEP, United Nations Environment Programme, the Mediterranean Action Plan, the Union for the Mediterranean, UNICE, and the League of Arab States. I think is apart from the countries, which of course are very important, we have all major international organizations active in this region, in this very important for not only symbolically, but for the actual realities, North-South interface, where education for sustainable development could provide a very important additional link and bridge between North and South, East and West. And this is very important also at the moment we all discuss the Sustainable Development Goals, to remember also the 5 priority areas of ESD for 2030, advancing policies, and actually, as you know, we have been, as MIO, instrumental in co-chairing under GAP this particular area, transforming learning environments, building capacities of educators. And again, I would like to remind everybody that with the support of the European Union and the Horizon 2020 SWIM program, and now with the West, we have managed to organize a series of capacity building meetings with the South countries, Southern Mediterranean countries, for training trainers, empowering and mobilizing youth, and accelerating local level actions. So keep that in mind in your presentations. And the final thing I want to share with you is the clustering of the action plan priorities to somehow correspond to 5 of the important areas elaborated recently during the UNESCO webinar series, which are climate change, biodiversity, green economies, and sustainable production, consumption, poverty, and health, with our priorities. And you can see them there. We have thematic priorities where many of the countries follow, with less from these 5, less activities until now on health. And obviously with COVID, this has become more urgent. Without saying more, I would like to kindly ask now our friend and supporter in our work, Mrs. Won Young Byun, from UNESCO Senior Project Officer of the section of ESD of UNESCO Paris, to actually introduce the UNESCO World Conference on ESD and share with us information and her ideas.
Thank you, Michael. I hope you can hear me well. It's perfect. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Won Jung Byun. Just please call me Won. I'm a senior project officer in the section of ESD here in UNESCO headquarters in Paris. So I'm very, very happy to be here with you today to discuss and present the latest developments around the UNESCO World Conference, which will take place in 1 month's time, and also to learn a little bit more about the developments in the Mediterranean region. So I'm very happy to be here, and I would like to really thank the organizers for this invitation. So if you agree, I would like to share my screen just to give a short presentation outlining the latest progress on ESD for 2030, as well as the Berlin conference. So I hope you see my screen now. Yes, perfect. Great. So just a short recap. As you know, we have been progressing step by step in developing education for sustainable development. And the latest was the Global Action Program on ESD, which took place for the 5-year period between 2015 to 2019. And some of the numbers that we have reached are quite impressive. And we would like to still build on the achievements so far, building on from the UN decade, the gap, and now onto the new phase called ESD for 2030. The overall objective of this ESD for 2030 particularly aims to promote 17 SDGs and help achieve these SDGs through the role of education, in particularly around these 5 areas of action: policies, learning environment, educators, youth, and local level actions. So you may be able to download the roadmap here in the link. Currently, it is now available in English, French, and Spanish, but we will soon have Portuguese and other language versions coming up very soon. The key features of this ESD for 2030 framework includes, and I won't go so much in detail, but just to recap, that it has an emphasis on the education's role for the 17 SDGs. So it is recognized by the UN General Assembly that ESD plays a key enabler role for all 17 SDGs. So this part would be one particular emphasis throughout the next 10 years of work. Secondly, there is a focus on the big transformation. Not only do we talk about individual transformation, but we would like to promote structural societal transformation towards sustainability. And this would entail a lot of efforts, not only at individual levels, but at the political, social, and economic levels, how we can move forward and make a big transition that is needed within the time frame that is available. And the third element is the emphasis on member states' leadership. This builds on the lessons learned from the previous rounds of ESD frameworks, that without member states' key role in the driver's seat in order to promote ESD as the central piece of the education policies, this would not be, our efforts around ESD would not be enough. So that's why we are now calling on countries to launch their country initiatives on ESD, which I will be addressing briefly later stage. So around these key features, we, as Michael just mentioned earlier, we would again stay and focus around these 5 priority action areas, namely advancing policy, transforming and changing learning environments in schools, building capacities of educators, and mobilizing youth and accelerating local level actions. So around these 5 priority action areas, the implementation of ESD for 2030 will have about these 6 key features. Firstly, the country initiative on ESD for 2030. So implementing ESD for 2030 at country level. Harnessing partnership and collaboration. This would include organizing and launching this global network called ESDNet at the Berlin conference in May. So this ESDNet would consist mainly of the representatives of the country initiative who represent their work within the countries in a multi-stakeholder way, but also include other regional global partners. And then communicating for action would include making supporting materials on ESD, on SDGs, and also continued efforts around UNESCO Japan Prize on ESD. So UNESCO Japan Prize this year, it will now go in every 2-year cycle. So this year's announcement is being made, and we are currently receiving applications until the end of this month. The next item is the tracking issues and trends. So promoting research on the latest discussions on ESD, mobilizing resources to create synergies, and monitoring the progress of ESD through existing frameworks like the Global Indicator 4.7.1 monitoring, but also through the country initiative, regular country reporting every 2 years. So further details on these 6 elements are available on the roadmap document if you would like to refer to more information. But I would like to still mention briefly about this country initiative on ESD for 2030, because indeed, this is the centerpiece of our implementation for the next 10 years. So we are now calling on countries to implement their own country initiative, which means to bring together their existing ongoing efforts on ESD, as well as a larger sense of sustainability efforts, for example, in the sectors of energy and biodiversity and other areas. So we would like to bring together, like in a big basket, different elements of ESD that are ongoing within their countries, and then build upon that to create synergies and promote collaboration. So currently we are calling upon different countries to launch their country initiative, and before Berlin conference, we would like to at least have a good number of starting group of countries who are launching their country initiative. And currently we have about around 40 to 50 countries across the world who have now developed or are in the process of developing their own country initiative. So for those of you who are representing countries in this call, if your country has not yet started this process but would like to do so, please let us know, and we will be able to follow up with some technical support, including a template that is already available for the countries. And with all of this at the background, now I'd like to briefly introduce to you about the Berlin conference. So as you know, this conference will take place from 17th to 19th of May. And now we have finally the subtitle is the Learn for Our Planet, Act for Sustainability. So under this subtitle, this UNESCO World Conference will be held virtually, live streamed from Berlin, Germany. And the working languages for documents, it will be English and French, and some of the sessions will be also interpreted in Spanish, Arabic, German, and Russian, Chinese in some plenaries. And now, because due to COVID-19, we had to postpone and turn it into a virtual event. But because we are doing it as an online event, we are now able to invite up to 2,500 participants to the conference. And this is by invitation. The conference objectives would include mobilizing support for the implementation of ESD for 2030 and its roadmap. Technically, the roadmap had been already launched last year in these regional launch events, but now we would like to really boost up the implementation and action around ESD for 2030, particularly around the country initiatives, and highlighting key global challenges and education's responses, and promoting ESD as a key enabler for the achievement of the SDGs would be the objectives of the conference. The conference will be held as a 3-day event starting from European time, lunchtime on 17th of May, which is Monday, until lunchtime on 19th of May. So in terms of length, that would be around 2 days of length. We would have opening ceremony and a high-level plenary discussing the role of ESD in the time of planetary challenges. And also there will be 2 rounds of ministerial roundtable where ministers will be invited to speak and talk about their country's commitments for ESD for 2030. Currently, we have about 50 ministers who will join for this ministerial roundtable. SDGs Marketplace will be a virtual exhibition booth where different organizations who have made their proposals on the call for proposals to come together and showcase their latest activities. And there will be thematic concurrent sessions around 5 thematic areas of ESD for 2030, which are namely climate change, biodiversity, green economies, resilience, and also technological advancements. And then there will be 2 rounds of discussions around putting ESD into action. One on around 5 priority action areas of policy, learning environment, educators, youth, and local level action. And the other 5 around education levels, starting from early childhood to technical and vocational education and training. And then there will be a session on meeting German good practices. Of course, had it been an offline event, we would have visited these sites in Berlin, but we would do it as an online event still to meet and discuss and learn about Germany's good practices. And then there will be a closing ceremony where the Berlin Declaration will be adopted. So around the participants' information, for each country, we have invited already all countries to nominate up to 8 participants from different sectors. And we will also invite UN partners and other international organizations, experts, cities and NGOs separately as part of the delegations. So the nomination process is ongoing, and we already have a registration of around 100 countries on board. And one of the key features that the main output document of this conference is what we call Berlin Declaration on ESD. So building up from the Bonn Declaration in 2009 and the Aichi Nagoya Declaration in 2014, this Berlin Declaration will also be a short conference outcome document that it reaffirms political commitment to ESD and ESD for 2030 framework and underlines the core components of the way forward. So this has been drafted based on, in consultation with the permanent delegates based in Paris from all member states. So they have nominated member state delegate as part of the Berlin Declaration drafting group, 1 per each UNESCO regional electoral groups. And in terms of the process, we have the Secretariat has provided a 0 draft. First drafting group meeting was held, and a bigger consultation meeting through regional offices and ESD stakeholders took place around March, where we received comments from 43 different countries, around 163 comments. And then based on that, we have organized a second drafting group meeting in April. And then soon this week, a 3rd round of consultation will go out to all national commissions of UNESCO, this latest draft for further consultations within their countries. And once the comments are compiled and sent back together, there will be a 3rd drafting group meeting at the beginning of May, and final adoption during the conference dates at the closing ceremony. So this overall declaration process is very much ongoing at the moment, and we're very excited to have all the inputs from different stakeholders coming together as we speak. And the next item would be finally just to share with you some of the communication related activities that are going around the Berlin conference. First of all, there's a campaign that is being launched around this new hashtag, Learn for Our Planet. And through this Learn for Our Planet, we are inviting everybody to share why you want to learn for our planet, why it is important to learn for our planet. So this is an online campaign that is going around the month of May ahead of the World Conference, and will continue beyond that throughout the ESD for 2030 period. And then there's another campaign going on to invite all organizations who are working on ESD across the world to register your events as a global celebration on ESD in the month of May. So we would like to map all the ESD related events that are going around and happening across the world in this month, and bring that together as a whole picture, so that we can see how ESD is being promoted by everybody around the Berlin conference. And then we have now launched a UNESCO LinkedIn group on ESD. You may wish to join the LinkedIn group by using this address below. So this LinkedIn group will be the tool where everybody who are actively engaged in ESD can come together, exchange their ideas, showcase their latest developments, and also launch subgroup discussions around key thematic areas of ESD. So we will be very happy if you could also join this in LinkedIn group afterwards. So around the next step, we are now talking with countries to launch and start the preparation for the country initiative plan. And then, of course, the UNESCO World Conference will take place. And 1 week after Berlin conference, as part of the World Conference, there will be a regional technical meeting held one by one for each region. So this is a second meeting following from the regional online launch of the roadmap last year. And for Europe and North America region, we have it planned for Tuesday, 25th of May from 3 to 4:30 p.m. That's CET time. So you would need to adjust your time zone. But this Europe and North America regional meeting would be also an important element. And I did not put it here in the list, but also there will be another meeting for Arab region as well as for Africa. And then there will be a regional meeting on ESD4 2030, hopefully back-to-back to regional SDG4 meetings in the year 2022, if possible in a physical format. And then there will be a global ESDnet meeting planned in 2023 with a cycle of every 2 years, so 25, 27, 29. So this will be the next steps in terms of the long-term planning until the end of 2030. So with that, that is my short presentation on the overview. You may wish to find further information on different websites here linked. And if you do have any comments or questions around the conference, also around the roadmap, and especially around the country initiative, we would be very much happy and available to talk to you bilaterally also to discuss your country's preparation on ESD for 2030. And in addition, I would like to mention also that we will today, soon this week, when we send out this announcement with the third draft of the Berlin Declaration, we will also invite member states who would like to organize a virtual online booth during the conference also to raise their hands, and we will be able to support that as well. So a number of information coming around, and we would be very happy to address any questions you may have. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Everything you said is extremely important for our preparation. The emphasis on countries is extremely, of course, well received. At the same time, we always emphasize, particularly for the Mediterranean, which is not a UN region, the importance of this North-South interface, and I think this has been understood and accepted. So a first question here is what already Arabella mentioned on the possibility for our committee to have a place in these activities, as, of course, it's not one country, there are many countries, but a way in which the Mediterranean could be as a whole, with each organizations and countries somehow represented also in the meeting, in the World Conference, perhaps with a booth or something like that. And also in the implementation of the program. So these two are important to be somehow addressed and accommodated in supporting UNESCO work and making it more actually operational through our mechanisms in the region.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Michael, just to respond to that questions, I think in the implementation of the program, absolutely, I think that will be really important to ensure that these efforts in the Mediterranean are also shared as a good practice also with other parts of the world. So indeed, we'll definitely find a way to do that, especially I think through these regional technical meetings, but also global meetings that we are planning, as I explained, in the next years. And in terms of the participation of the committee within the Berlin conference, I At the moment, the SDG Marketplace booths have been already completed, so that is already full, and we have all the confirmation at the moment. So I would have to see what other possibilities there lie. One other possibility is with this member states booth. If a member state asks for a booth in the name of Mediterranean group and say that we would like to organize something as a group rather than just one country, I think that would be one of the ways to go about it. So that we don't undermine others who have already submitted the proposal and were not selected, but can go this route through the member states booth. So perhaps that's something that you can discuss.
Thank you, Juan. So that means that some of the countries may include or invite the committee to participate. We have submitted actually early enough a request for a booth, but anyhow, and the same is important for the message that this committee would like eventually to submit to the conference. This has to go again through the countries, or we may have the chance to present it. I mean,
message as in the sense of contributing to the declaration.
The declaration, of course, we can have the opportunity to make a final. We have made already comments, but I'm talking about addressing the meeting in Berlin. Our chair or someone could could read, let's say, a page with key messages from this critical region. When we are talking about one of the goals on peace, I cannot imagine another region having more to say than the Mediterranean. So I think it is very important for the international ESD family to see how hard we are trying in our region to bring things together. So this is an important component that I would like perhaps for you, through you actually, for UNESCO to consider and see how and where we can deliver our short message.
Okay, well noted. I think I would have to go back and review the possibilities, because obviously with this online format and limited number of slots for the programs, it's quite challenging still.
It is.
Yes. So please, but if I understand correctly, that will be a one-page statement coming from the Mediterraneans that you would like to share with the group.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you very much. And now I would like Vicky to remind everybody some of the questions we have sent out for the statements.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Professor Skola.
And also you may give a first, actually, introduce some of the statistical, how you call it, polls.
Yes, actually, we are now opening the poll. Please allow us to open our first poll. We are using Slido interactive tool. I have also written it in the chat. Please enter, visit Slido and enter the code 036837 036837. And so far we have uploaded our first question to you, that is actually to rate how do you find TSD is advancing in your country from 1 to 4. So you have a couple of minutes for this first poll, and then we will share the results with you. Okay, I think now we can have a first look of the results. Let me share the screen. So this is your response to our first question. From 1 to 4, we can see the results. And we can move now to our second question. That is, how much do you think regional cooperation and initiatives can help the countries in advancing ESD? So the floor is yours to respond to this question, our second question for the webinar. How much do you think regional cooperation and initiatives can help the countries in advancing ESD? Okay, we can again share the results with you. Let's have a look. Okay.
There is still 5% that they don't see any. That's interesting.
And this is the first question and our second one. So we see that the majority of the respondents have rated ESD in their countries in between 2 and 3, while regional cooperation gets a higher rate, as we can see here. And now we can, if Professor Skoulas, you don't have any remark on it, we can move on to our panelists, because
the 3 and 4 here is overwhelming. Yes.
Because the time is actually flying. So I think we should move on with our panel discussion.
Okay. So first in my list here is Mr. Jonathan Baker, Head of Science, UNESCO Regional Office, Venice Regional Bureau for Science and Culture in Europe. And Jonathan, please take the floor.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the floor and the opportunity to contribute to today's debate. And thank in particular to you, Michael, and to your team at the Mediterranean Information Office. I think all of us are convinced that education has the power to transform the world and to make it more sustainable. And transforming learning and societies towards sustainability is the aim of UNESCO's ESD for 2030 framework and its 5 priority action areas, as my colleague Juan has described in detail. And COVID-19 has exposed the existing environmental and climate crises, and has also unfortunately had an extreme impact on education throughout the world. But I think it's also a time of opportunities, a time for us to rethink our development model and our education model, and to build back better following the pandemic. And in this time of transformation, ESD represents a crucial tool to contribute to the green transition and to address global challenges, notably the climate and environmental crises. ESD in the Mediterranean has a considerable history, and those present here today are witness to the great work that's been done in the region to contribute to ESD, notably through the Mediterranean Strategy on Education for Sustainable Development and its action plan. The UNESCO Regional Bureau for Science and Culture in Europe is proud to be part of this regional work, along with the other partners and other stakeholders, such as the Mediterranean Information Office, the Union for the Mediterranean, UNEP-MAP, and UNECE, notably within the context of the Mediterranean Committee on ESD. With our partners, we've been systematically promoting and implementing ESD through many of our programs. Indeed, it's one of the priority areas for our regional bureau, which has, as you may know, a dual regional focus on culture on one hand and science on the other, but also ESD. Now, firstly, we've done this through the context of the SDGs and SDG target 4.7 in the region. last year in July, we published a comparative analysis to map the mainstreaming of ESD across SDG 4.7 in Cyprus, Greece, Malta, and Turkey. And we're delighted to have both Professor Michael Skoulas and Dr. Aravella Zaccario here as they peer-reviewed the publication. And the report showed that the 4 countries have achieved significant results in mainstreaming ESD across both primary and secondary education, but also provide recommendations for the further implementation of ESD at the higher education level. And this year, we're going to publish a study on scoping the implementation of education for sustainable development in Southeast Europe, including the impact of COVID-19, which builds upon this earlier publication. Now, our regional bureau is also implementing ESD in an interdisciplinary manner, building on UNESCO's scientific and interdisciplinary programs in climate change, biodiversity, water, ocean, and youth. And as you'll see, these are very closely linked to the priority thematic issues for ESD in the action plan of the Mediterranean strategy on ESD. And notably within the framework of the Man and Biosphere program, we've co-organized summer universities with the Mediterranean Information Office and Professor Michael Skoulas this past 6 years, including the special edition Asterousia Hybrid University in 2020. And these summer universities really provide a training for experts and youth on biosphere reserves as learning places for sustainable development. And earlier this year, we also organized what we call the MAB Blueprint webinar series for the region, where we worked with young people and site managers to identify local solutions for sustainable development and transformative steps, notably through ESD. And the Regional Bureau is also working in the area of ocean literacy to leverage ocean knowledge, to promote ocean sustainability, to develop and disseminate ocean literacy resources among schools and students, and encouraging citizens to take sustainable actions at both individual and collective levels. And we're working closely with our member states to develop the capacity of decision makers and also UNESCO site managers to manage their sites in the climate change era. And we've also have in the pipelines possible projects in the area of climate change and citizen education involving schools, young people, and local communities. So looking forward, within the context of ESD for 2030 roadmap in the Mediterranean, the UNESCO Regional Bureau will continue to promote the contribution of ESD to supporting a greener recovery in the region that promotes both people, planet, prosperity, partnerships, and peace. And I look forward to further exchanging with members of the distinguished panels on these themes. Thank you very much.
You are muted.
Thank you very much, Jonathan, for this very substantial contribution and the very active work of the Regional Bureau in the work of ESD in the Mediterranean. Now, I would like to turn to another important organization and person who has helped us very much, Mrs. Tatiana Hema, the Deputy Coordinator of UNEP-MAP, of the Barcelona Convention Secretariat, to address us. And it's a pleasure to have you, Tatiana, with us.
Thank you very much, Michael. Good afternoon, everyone. I am also very much delighted to be with you today in your meeting. First, because it's the first time that I think I'm joining this audience on behalf of UNEP-MAP Secretariat, but I also have been working in my country many years ago in the education sector. So it's in my heart the issue that whatever you are doing to create a Mediterranean profile for working together to promote and to implement an ambitious agenda for education for sustainable development. This is very important, and it's a driver that we must use in our collective endeavor to make peace with nature and achieve SDGs in our own region and beyond. From UNEP-MAP side, I would like to refer to 2 assessments that were undertaken either by us or with our support. I mean, UNEP-MAP Barcelona Convention System on the current trends that shows that the current trends and what the work that has been done, a regionally coordinated response to the triple crisis of pollution, climate change, and biodiversity loss in our region. The first report is the State of Environment and Development Report in the Mediterranean, produced by our Regional Activity Center, Plan Bleu, in France, warns that the Mediterranean is not on track to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. It indicates that unless urgent and resolute action is taken to halt current trends, environmental degradation could have serious and lasting consequences for human health and livelihood in the region. The first Mediterranean assessment report, MAR1, released by the Network of the Mediterranean Experts on Climate and Environmental Change, MEDEC, an independent network of outstanding scientists that Plan Bleu, our regional activity center in France, hosts, has established the fact of the unfolding climate crisis in the basin. The findings point to far-reaching impacts affecting both natural and socio-economic systems. On all priority thematic issues for education for sustainable development, from climate change and biodiversity to resilience, the science has spoken. We know what's happening in the region, but where do we go from here? This is very important, and we do believe that the Mediterranean has one of the most advanced normative frameworks set up under UNEP auspices in the context of the Regional Seas Program, which is the MAP Barcelona Convention system. Since its introduction 40 years ago, a stratification process has all but covered the full spectrum of themes pertaining to marine and coastal environment management, pollution and conservation in the context of sustainable development. But this normative build-up has outpaced enforcement and compliance at the national level. Boosting enforcement and compliance is the region's best chance to rescue Mediterranean ecosystems for their predicament. And the full implementation of the obligations by all Mediterranean countries and the participation of stakeholders, including civil society organizations, businesses, and informed citizens, constitute crucial building blocks for a green renaissance, a recovery from COVID-19 that would set the compass of the Mediterranean economies towards greater sustainability and resilience. Bolstering this effective implementation should be part, in our views, at the center of the education for sustainable development in the region. The rationales here go beyond the legal text itself to include the wealth of regional strategies and action plans adopted by our contracting parties, and in this respect, the Mediterranean Strategy for Sustainable Development is a case in point. The Mediterranean Strategy, adopted in 2016, in the framework of under the leadership of the Mediterranean Commission on Sustainable Development, a multi-stakeholder advisory body of the UNEP MAP Barcelona Convention system, provides a blueprint for green action aligned with the 2030 Agenda and the Paris Agreement. And the education for sustainable development is an integral part of the MSSD. We believe that this kind of transformative change needed for a green renaissance in our region requires investment on education for sustainable development to support the achievement of two essential prerequisites: pro-sustainability mindset and cooperation at all levels among countries, within countries, among and within government departments and across society. Well before the pandemic struck, the contracting parties to the Barcelona Convention acknowledged in their ministerial declaration in February 2016 that the Mediterranean Strategy for Environment for Sustainable Education for Sustainable Development is an important vehicle to enhance public awareness and promote sustainability and implementation of the SDGs in the Mediterranean. Education for sustainable development remains central to bringing about change that sweeps through all economic sectors and to cementing a whole of society responses to the unprecedented challenges we are facing today. We are doing everything we can to put the green renaissance on the Mediterranean agenda. The next conference of the parties to the Barcelona Convention in December 2021, hosted by Turkey, will examine a raft of new anti-pollution, pro-sustainability regional plans and decision for adoption. This conference can serve as a regional forum for a high-level policy dialogue on flicking the green switch in the region. At COP22, our contracting parties are also expected to examine the midterm strategy of the UNEP MAP system, which includes an innovative enabling program for informed and consistent advocacy, awareness, education, and communication. In the implementation of the new term strategy by the MAP system, after its adoption, will take advantage of the significant advances in digital technology and continue to work with our partners to enhance ocean literacy in the Mediterranean as part of the UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development. Mediterranean Coast Day, that has been established under the Barcelona Convention and which is observed every year on 25th September, serves as a platform for awareness raising and advocacy on sustainability in our region. A UNEP MAP Barcelona Convention system also offers 2 regional awards, both promoting sustainability, the Istanbul Environment Friendly City Award and the recently launched Mediterranean Sustainability Award, which recognizes success stories of sustainable businesses and public authorities supporting them. And lastly, we also are very keen in working with the youth. And for the second time, would like to have a youth session in the next meeting of the contracting parties. And the intention is to make sure that we build and we support further education on sustainable development, of course, within our own mandate, to make sure that the youth are the citizens of the future and the decision makers of the future. So it's very important for us to work in this direction, and the plan is also to prepare a guide on how to support education on issues that UNEP MAP Barcelona Convention is working on. Having said that, let me reiterate again our full support for what you are doing in the region, and our support will continue even stronger, and we are more than happy, Professor Skoulas, to provide whatever, even with our contracting partners, to make more visible the work that you are doing, even in this global conference that UNESCO will be organizing in the future. Thank you very much for your work, and congratulations for this absolutely very important initiative.
Thank you very much, Tatiana. Thank you very much indeed. We are doing all together. And what is important for us is that the Mediterranean strategy and action plan are indeed part of the Mediterranean Commission of Sustainable Development and endorsed by all the Mediterranean states, which is very important indeed institutionally. And UNEP MAP provides both knowledge that is necessary for the themes, the important themes in the region, but also it is very important that we have through UNEP MAP the countries, including through the environment ministries also, the non-formal and informal education in their programs. And I have to say that the environment ministries in the Mediterranean were among the pioneers in non-formal and informal education. Thank you very much. Without taking more time myself, I would like to turn to the other important political platform which supports the work on ESD in the region, the Union for the Mediterranean, Mr. Giuseppe Provenzano, Advisor for Research and Innovation in Higher Education and Research Division of the Union for the Mediterranean Secretariat. Giuseppe,
good morning.
The floor.
Good morning, Professor Skoulas. Good morning, everybody. It's actually a pleasure to see so many faces, even if virtually, after so much time that we cannot meet physically. And please allow me to give a couple of pointers. I prepared a short presentation, but I understand that we will need to to be as quick as possible in order not to take too much of your time, because I see the agenda is quite full. Can you see it, first of all? Perfect. Concerning the Union for the Mediterranean and its support for this very important process, actually one of, as you were mentioning, Professor, one of the pioneering process in education in all of its level in the Mediterranean, we are trying to support this process as we have been done since the beginning in all of its aspects. And actually, we are trying to streamline and implement it horizontally in all of our work. The Union for the Mediterranean, as you mentioned, is the Euro-Mediterranean intergovernmental institution active in the 42 Mediterranean countries, joining together both the north, which is the European Union, and 15 countries from the south and the east, and we try to cooperate on topics of actual importance. Where ESD has been prominently supported by us, actually through a formal endorsement during our Ministerial Declaration on Environment and Climate Change. The first one, as we are preparing for new developments, where we have been recognizing it, and where we've been trying to give a role promoting it at the regional, sub-regional level. As you know, the Union for the Mediterranean works through a methodology which is trying to support this dialogue, such as ESD. For political meetings, I mentioned that there was a formal recognition given to this process by our environment and climate change ministers, but also through our platforms for dialogue, which joins together the line ministries, so in environment ministries, education ministries, but also water ministries and so on, and different projects. During the last years, there has been on this level a variety of different agendas where we've been trying to support the topics promoted by Education for Sustainable Development and its subsectors in different areas, starting with the Environmental and Climate Change Declaration 2014, but also Blue Economy, which this year has seen its second ministerial declaration, the ministerial on water, on energy, and on research and innovation. Now this year of particular interest for the topics that has been developing, we are developing actually a new agenda on climate change, on health and renewable energy in research and innovation. And I see here that there are many points that actually are in full synergy with the ESD agenda. Coming to upcoming events, since we were also asked to give a perspective about future activities where we can try to connect the ESD, where we have upcoming some meetings on the blue economy sectors, on improving its sustainability, on blue skills and women, also on the mismatch that exists between the labor force and industry, because we see that sustainability has a huge potential for creating new sustainable jobs in the Mediterranean. But here we need to connect the education sector, the ministries, with the environmental ministry, with the economic ministry, in order to spur some kind of discussion, for instance, on green skills, on green entrepreneurship, but also on sustainable finance, tourism, and so on. Just some quick snapshots on what's going on in some subsectors of activities. We have been advancing on the sector of blue economy and research, for instance, as the Blue Med implementation plan has been approved, identifying some key lines where some more detailed activities could be implemented, for instance, on trainings, on e-mentoring of young startups, on blue economy, training centers, knowledge exchange, digital technologies, and so on. On blue economy, we keep on promoting a platform where all the stakeholders can join. It's directly managed by us as the UFM Secretariat, and facilitate contacts between educational networks for exchanging information. It acts as a one-stop shop for those that would like to engage more on the sustainability of our sea across a variety of different stakeholders, including education, but also including the economic sectors, and including the research centers. Then we are promoting a new agenda for the greener Mediterranean for 2013. We identified some thematic priorities through a consultation with countries and stakeholders, and education, which is not as much as surprising for us. We are in this meeting. Education has come up from the stakeholders as a key and shared element that should be promoted inside this new greener Med agenda, which includes, between the others, reducing pollution, preserving biodiversity, and promoting a green, circular, and socially inclusive economy. Then, of course, there is a work more specifically on higher education, where it's one of the horizontal activities that is foreseen on ESD, especially on policies and learning environments and institutions. In the Mediterranean, we need to act, especially in our context, because we have more than 30 million students at university level. There is an increase in students going to university. Why? Because we are a young region, so there are more and more students joining university sector, and here we have an opportunity for joining it with the environmental sector and for the sustainability sectors, especially because there is an opportunity to exploit in order to increase the economic output and possibility of the UN 2013 agenda. More specifically on research and innovation, we are now promoting the follow-ups during the Valletta Declaration 2017. Our 42 countries have endorsed an agenda on sustainable agriculture, on blue economy, and on exploring the deep roots of migration. Now this new agenda seems even more in line with what we've seen as for the ESD, namely for climate change and health as main focus for increasing research in the Mediterranean. On the topic of facilitating the transition between education sectors and employment, we've started also to advance an advanced discussion on skills, on what kind of competencies are needed in order to support our students. And for this, we have published last year a publication which includes also many topics connected to green entrepreneurship, for instance, or on connecting on sustainability, for instance, on agriculture. We have a new publication handbook that has come out in December last year. And this year, we are going to organize different workshops and seminars in order to promote this concept. As a closure, since this is a UNESCO initiative in the end, we wanted just to mention another framework with UNESCO in which we are going to be a partner of, which is the World Higher Education Conference, which is going to be held in Barcelona, actually, where we are located. And the UFM is going to host an expert meeting and also a side event. And why this is important? Because one of the topics is actually connected to higher education and the sustainable development goals. So I thought it was good to mention in order to foresee possible synergies. This is a broad overview of the latest publication, more connected to ESD that we have had during the last couple of years, since it's a lot of time since we're not having meetings, especially on blue economy, on greening, the blue economy, on sustainable entrepreneurship, and interconnecting the educational sector with the economic sector for economic inclusion. This is all for my side. I hope I didn't steal too much of your time, but I remain available for any kind of question after the meeting.
Thank you very much, Giuseppe. It is very important also the emphasis you have put on economic issues. Entrepreneurship is very important. Many of the countries in the region ask for closer link of ESD with this issue, and also the other big issue of the region, a big social, economic, and cultural issue with migration. And these are important challenges that we need to address. Only 1 hour ago, we had in Greece the meeting of all universities. As some of you may know, Greece under our guidance, has already in 2011 managed to have a charter, sustainability charter of tertiary education institutions. Now is going one step further, and we are very happy to contribute to the meeting you mentioned together for university education from the Mediterranean Committee point of view. Now, the last but not least of the international organizations of the committee, League of Arab States, is going to be represented by Mrs. Hayam Al-Salal, International Cooperation, ESD Education and Scientific Research Department of the League of Arab States. A great pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you very much, Professor Michael, and to Dr. Aravella. I would like to thank you on behalf of the League of Arab States for all of your efforts to coordinate and organize all these meetings to implement the action plan of the ECD. And the League of Arab States is pleased to be part of this meeting and is willing to build a constructive and fruitful cooperation in the field of education. Ladies and gentlemen, while Arab education systems have not yet been able to contain the effect of conflicts and wars in many regions on its educational systems, and the subsequent deprivation of millions of children and youth from continuing their education, and while these systems continue to strive to achieve the fourth goal of the Sustainable Development and to fulfill its indicators, in the light of scarcity of funding and the widening of educational gaps, an unprecedented pandemic swept the world and paralyzed the education systems in it and forced them to adopt alternative educational formats as the e-learning format, which has greatly affected the progress of achieving the SDG 4. In this context, the League of Arab States has decided to develop an Arab plan for education during emergencies and crisis, with the aim of ensuring continuity of education and learning opportunities for all Arab learners and those most affected by crisis and the neediest, ensuring the continuity of education and learning in emergency and crisis situations in all stages and areas of formal education, such as natural disasters, floods, earthquakes, fires, epidemics, infectious diseases, armed conflicts, external attacks, terrorism, wars, asylum, and displacement. The League of Arab States believes that training educators, which is the third indicator in the SDG 4, is one of the main keys in developing a solid educational system and achieving SDG 4, especially during the pandemic that has forced all parties in the educational process, which are the teachers, the students, and the parents, to apply and adapt to e-learning. Although most of them are not enough qualified to use modern technologies and to apply the best e-learning technologies that is appropriate to the needs of each institution, therefore, it has been necessary to organize capacity building programs for educators in order to qualify them to use the latest technologies of e-learning during the crisis and afterwards, and to adapt to different methods of teaching and guidance. Hence, the League of Arab States would be pleased to operate in a TOT program to benefit the educational systems. The League of Arab States has also realized that educational institutions have a crucial role in teaching young children the principles of environment preservation since early age. And the media has a crucial role as well in raising environmental awareness among children. It could be through an educational movie or a song, for instance, etc. So we would also be willing to cooperate in something like that. And at the end, the League of Arab States is open for cooperation with you in your programs that could help develop educational systems in the Arab world and raise environmental awareness as well And I wish this event all success. Hopefully it would result in fruitful and constructive outputs. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. And I think we have already started active cooperation also through the organizations or the non-state organizations in your region, including the Arab Network for Environment Development, RAED, and Emma Dudley is with us, I see, and also many other organizations in the region who are active, and many of the governments. And the material which is produced through also the committee and from MIO, many of them are already in Arabic. So this, I think, have to be widely further distributed by you, used by you. And we are very happy to promote that within the committee. Thank you very much. And we move now to 3 of the member states that participate in the committee, starting with Arabella Zachariou, now as head of the ESD unit of the Ministry of Education of Cyprus. Please, Arabella.
Thank you, Michael. Time is running, so I will be very brief. I will describe very briefly some of the advancement policies that Cyprus promote for integrating ESD in its national context. First of all, I would like to indicate that ESD in Cyprus is one of the main priority areas of the governmental policy. And the roadmap for ESD implementation is the National Action Plan for ESD, which is organized according to the Cyprus particularities, but taking also in consideration the flagship documents on ESD, such as the UNESCO ESD Decade, the ESD GAP, the UNESCO ESD GAP, the EUNES strategy, and of course the Mediterranean Action Plan. I would just like to indicate some important initiatives that establish Cyprus as an example of good practice internationally and as a championship country for integrating ESD in the Mediterranean. And the first is, of course, as I already said, the National Strategic Planning for ESD, which includes all the individual policies for ESD in Cyprus, curriculum, training, non-formal education. It is also important to note that the establishment that in Cyprus we have established a permanent structure for education for environment sustainable development, which can consider as a reference point, not only for Cyprus and how horizontal issues like ESD integrated in national context, but I think it's an example of good practice more generally, because this unit brings together all the actions related to ESD at formal, non-formal and informal education, for all educational levels and for the civil society, enables the interconnection of ESD policies and their complementarity. This unit is operating as the mechanism, the national mechanism for designing, monitoring, updating and evaluating ESD at all levels of education and between ministries. And this is really very important because it's ensuring the institutional memory for the actions in ESD. It's long-term and systematic, it's investing long-term and systematically on ESD. Another policy is the establishment of sustainable environmental education policy in schools based on the whole institution approach, which is a mandate for pre-primary and primary education. And in secondary education, this is applied through the Unified School Plan for School Self-Improvement. Also, the formal integration of non-formal education for ESD as a formal policy of the Cypriot education system, as a complementary structure to support the actions of schools in ESD, and for the implementation of the ESD curriculum is an important factor in the success of the initiatives that are taken from schools on ESD. Also, the obligatory introduction of ESD curriculum in pre-primary and primary education is another achievement in national level. And of course, the revision of teachers' professional development programs, which are based on ESD competence approach, and the introduction of compulsory education and training programs for teachers and principals on ESD. I would like to, before closing this brief intervention, to mention that during the pandemic, where all the schools were closed, ESD framework operated as a tool for strengthening parents and children to overcome their situation of emergency in a more resilient way. How we did this? We created a series of simple interactive activities for SDGs, which applied with the parents and their children at home. This facilitates families during the period of isolation to learn creatively and with this simple way SDGs. Additionally, in collaboration with the CYBC channel, we organized the educational TV, where the staff of the unit of ESD was provided lessons for parents based on climate change, biodiversity, wildlife, consumption, and production. Based on the above references, I would like also to mention and emphasize the importance that is giving Cyprus for integrating ESD and the related issues for SDGs in the Mediterranean region. And for this reason is leading the regional initiative for climate change in Eastern Mediterranean and Middle East countries, and many of you, I mean, many countries of you are participating and working very intensively with us for creating a document that will operate as a guiding tool for strengthening people to work against climate crisis. Now, based on the next steps and regarding the future of ESD in Cyprus, I would like to say that it's closely related with the advanced international policies for ESD, and of course UNESCO ESD Roadmap 2030, UNC ESD Strategic Planning 2030, the EU Green Deal, and of course the ESD Mediterranean Action Plan. This national action plan will be revised according to the rest aforementioned policies. And another thing that I would like to indicate is that Cyprus will participate to the launching of the country's initiative for ESD 2030 that UNESCO announced. This initiative is led by the Cyprus minister and includes the revision of the ESD national strategy based on the 5 key priorities areas. Dear colleagues, before concluding, on behalf of the Cyprus government, who is chairing the ESD Mediterranean Steering Committee, I would like to reaffirm the commitment of Cyprus government to working in close collaboration with all the Med partners and countries to make the vision of ESD as a reality in our region. I would like also to state that in national level, but also and as a member of the ESD Med Coalition, will stay focused in our mission. We start together with this initiative and we continue together for being ESD Med Action Plan, the roadmap that inspire us and connect us. Thank you, Michael.
Very much. Thank you very much, Arabella, and I would like to thank the government of the Cypriot Republic for their commitment, the continuous support and commitment to the work we are doing in the region for the ESD. Now I'm asking another of the champion countries. It happens to be also an insular state of the Mediterranean, Malta, and Mr. Francesco De Bono from the Ministry of Education. You have the floor.
Hi, good afternoon. Can you see the slides?
Right, yes.
Yes, okay, that's a blue slide, ESD and the GCED as a cross-curricular team. Good afternoon. And on behalf of the Directorate for Learning and Assessment Programs within the Ministry for Education, I thank the organization team for allowing us this opportunity to contribute to this meeting. I would like to mention here that I am also representing my colleagues from the ministry, namely Mr. Alan Pulis, who is very hardworking in ESD as well, and Professor Paul Patch. It was a good thing to note, it's a good thing to note that ESD is one of the learning areas stipulated by the National Curriculum Framework of 2012. But before that, the environmental aspect of ESD had already been forming an essential part of secondary and post-secondary school curricula through the subject of environmental studies. However, the National Curriculum Framework subsequently sought to promote ESD and global citizenship education even further, in alignment, or to be in alignment with UNICE's or UNECE three-pillared definition of ESD. In fact, apart from the subject-specific outcomes in the syllabi of all subjects, okay, these syllabi, both at primary level and secondary level, also include specific outcomes, learning outcomes, which are all aligned to the three pillars promoted by UNICE. So this way, ESD and global citizenship education, in a broader term, is not a timetabled subject, but also a cross-curricular team that infiltrates, all right, formal and informal learning in all subjects across all cycles and in all schools. All schools, all schools have a responsibility to address ESD and facilitate not only awareness, because we do not emphasize only on awareness, but on authentic national, environmental, social, and economic scenarios. All right? We would like to foster skills and competencies that eventually lead to the nurture of responsible citizens who are capable of making responsible and wise and informed lifestyle choices for a sustainable future. During these last few years, the ministry also had the good opportunity to collaborate with a number of NGOs, for example, like Nature Trust Fee Malta or BirdLife Malta as well. And also there's another entity, another NGO called Untitled Chapter, and all of these entities, non-governmental entities, collaborated wholly with the ministry. So these entities, the role of these entities was to develop and coordinate programs that did not only raise awareness, but also supported scholastic communities to get involved and to understand how responsible lifestyle choices could help preserve the natural environment, build a more just and equitable society, and generate stronger and fairer economies. Among these programs, we have Eco Schools, which is also present in many of the countries represented in the meeting over here. And we also have another program which is run by BirdLife Malta called Dinja Wahda, which raises awareness and provides students with skills which are related to natural ecosystems. Collaboration with the Ministry for the Environment, Sustainable Development and Climate Change also saw the development of a learning initiative that promotes responsible consumption of marine products and fish stocks, all right? Because that's very important for an island, for a small island, which is situated in the middle of the Mediterranean. Now, extension of this program will also focus on aquaculture towards preserving natural stocks, and also to promote among our youth, among secondary students and post-secondary students, careers in the sectors, blue careers as well. All right. Another entity which is collaborating wholly with the Ministry for Education is COPIN, as we already mentioned, with their learning programs which address social, which address the societal, the socio-economic aspect of ESD. Rooms for improvement. The Ministry is currently maintaining its efforts to ensure that ESD and global citizenship educations find their way even deeper into the school culture. Okay. In fact, the Ministry towards 2019 pledged and allocated around 10,000 euros to be utilized for school-based investment and programs and initiatives that prioritize in ESD and global citizenship education. This was a very important step. However, our plans and ESD and global citizenship education will not yield the desired outcomes if human resources are not taken care of. Schools and educators in what are doing very well in delivering learning programs. However, ESD implementation requires an evolved mindset, as we all know, okay, and the delivery of learning experience. Now, to have these educators and SLT, school leadership teams, perceive these evolved mindsets and experience these evolved mindsets, they need continuous support with educators who have a specialty in ESD and global education. And obviously, this support can only be obtained with the adequate human resources. So we are continuously in discussions with the Ministry to try and increase our human resources. Another pivotal aspect, and this will be my last point, in our future vision for ESD, okay, is to encourage further schools and educators to broaden their perspective and approach to the area of ESD and global education. So this implies a move away from the traditional restricted emphasis on the natural and environmental dimension. The environmental dimension, but we also need to emphasize strongly on the socio-economic aspect, especially in the post-COVID-19 world. And this is something which we are working very hard on. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed for all what you presented. And I would like to now give the floor to Mr. Ahmad Obaidat, Director, Outreach and Environment Awareness of the Directorate of the Ministry of Environment of Jordan. And I would like to remind everybody that when we had decisions about the synthesis of the committee, it was decided by the other ministries of education to have a country with a Ministry of Environment also to participate in this committee, and it was decided to be the Ministry of Jordan. So welcome and thank you very much for being a committed member of the committee from the beginning, Jordan. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Michel, scholars, and Dr. Aravella. Good afternoon, everybody. First of all, I would like to send you a warm greeting from His Excellency Nabil Masarwa, Minister of Environment. It's my pleasure to share this short statement about our achievement initiatives related to ESD and also some steps forward 2030. As the whole world, we also in Jordan suffering from COVID-19, which changing our life 180 degrees and can't continue so far as usual in all sectors. We are in Jordan adopt the online education, which is a big challenge in education field in general, as well as environmental education. That means it's very difficult to implement any activity on ground or create any live interactive events. Unfortunately, Eco School program and environmental teachers competition has been stopped last year. Hopefully, it will be refreshed in the coming studying years. Build the foundation for ESD strategy, which were started in 2019 and was expected to be issued in 2020, but due to the lockdown in Jordan for several months, we have daily in most of our activities. Currently, work has been successfully resumed, and our strategy will be officially launched in the coming couple of weeks. We have also reviewed our national environmental awareness plan and implement a campaign distribute brochures and waste collection bags of cars. We would like to highlight the strong relationships between Ministry of Environment and the NGOs in the EE sector. They are one of our main stakeholders. We are sharing activities and send many agreement and memoranda of understanding. In our way to 2030, Jordan will implement ESD strategy, which will take 2 years duration. Honestly speaking, we didn't decide the strategy starting that for implementation, but since out country working now to secure a safe summer. We hope that we can start implementation by the end of 2021. To talk about the priority thematic issues for ESD. In our strategy, we choose the environmental sustainable themes to be matching with our strategy and priority in Ministry of Environment, as it is with the UNESCO gap on ESD, which is also interested with the action plan for MED strategy on ESD. So we will focus on, first of all, climate change, to biodiversity, then tree forests and land degradation, for the safest risk reduction, 5 sustainable consumption and production, 6 ocean, seas and marine resources. Finally, we are looking forward to continuing to intensify international efforts and unify visions to reach high level outcomes and release the ambitions towards the topic of sustainable education in the Mediterranean countries in a manner that guarantees future generation and education that achieves sustainable development at all levels. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I apologize to all for having actually a longer session because the presentations of all the organizations and countries were particularly important. I didn't want to cut short anyone. So we don't have questions in the chat. One or two have been, I think, already answered. And if there is, however, any additional question, we may have it now. But if not, I would like to try and before trying to conclude and close this meeting, I have to say that we have obtained, actually, we have we managed to address the two objectives, the preparations for the conference, the global conference, and hearing from the different organizations and countries, some of the countries, the very important progress in approaching the conference. I have noted down a number of important elements to provide for the drafting of the message that I'm going to share with you, but you can also, I mean, we will use also the polls. I would like to ask Vicky if she has some results from the two last questions.
I have shared my screen. Can you see it?
Yes.
This is the last question that we have opened to our audience to share with us one or two key words for our Mediterranean ESD message to be conveyed to the conference. So far, you can see the word cloud created. We have a lot of responses about peace, inclusiveness, and support teachers so far. It will be open for a little while for everyone who wishes to send the key message. So
it is as expected. These are three very important issues also raised particularly in the intervention of the League of Arab States, the issue of peace and inclusiveness, also support to teachers, trainers. And this is where we put the emphasis. As I mentioned before, the committee, through the support of WES, the European Union, neighborhood policy, will continue the support to the training of trainers. Also, we are going to have, as a follow-up, 3 webinars as a follow-up of the World Conference. We will give you the details. Also, we would like to ask UNESCO not to forget to include the committee not only in the European, but also in the Arab and North African regional meetings. I would like to ask you, Vicky, if you have also the other question already.
I can share the first and the second because we didn't have the time to open the one in between so far. So I can share once more the
yes, these are the two first, you remember.
Yes. Yes.
Strong support on where we are, on what we want for as regional cooperation, the importance we actually put there.
And if we have a minute, I can open also the third one. It was supposed to be the third one on how important you find ESD as a means for cooperation and dialogue in the Mediterranean North-South and East-West interface.
It's very similar to the second. Yes. It was supposed to be after having the interventions.
Okay, we have some score already.
I think the message is clear. We use also the cloud, where peace for the region is a very important issue. Support for teachers and training of trainers is still a very important one. Inclusiveness. And I conclude by taking only some of the words mentioned in the different interventions of the organizations and the countries. Apparently, ocean literacy and work in this area is important for the region. The entrepreneurship also and the link with economy, new jobs, and youth are important components for the strategy of the regional platforms, and also for the countries and the organizations. The emphasis on combination of environmental issues, where we have as environmental education a long tradition, need and is clear, and already we have progress in linking this with socioeconomic and cultural issues, very important for the region. A very important also thing is application. It was also said at the beginning, the link of ESD with other policies for biodiversity, for example, and other programs like the biosphere reserves, important in the region, and ways in which we have encouraged initiatives by non-state actors, and the need to involve other stakeholders such as media as well, and at all policy levels. The SDG 17 for international cooperation, I think, is so vital, but also so advanced in our region. And I think these are important elements to be included in the short message that we will share with the members of the committee, the international organization countries that participate now in the committee, in order to have their feedback and receive also from UNESCO through one guidance on how we will deliver that. So I would like to thank all of you. I would like to thank the interpreters. I would like to thank all the important organizations, all the countries. There are countries participating who didn't want to take the floor, but also a brief result of what we are saying, and the message is going to be sent out to all countries of the region. So once again, I would like to thank all of you who took the floor. Thank you, Juan. Please convey to UNESCO our commitment to be a very active part of what is going on. And I think that
can we open out cameras? Can we turn on the cameras
to have a picture all together? Anthony.
Yes, I don't know what's going on, but I have some problem with said cannot start video.
You send us your picture.
Sorry, no. What happens?
Yeah. So thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Michael.
And Vicky, tell us when we are ready.
Okay, I think it's okay.
Thank you. So till next time, we will invite you all in the meeting after. We plan to have 3 webinars after the meeting. One on the outcomes of the conference and see and strategize a little bit because we have in the pipeline the revision of our action plan. The other 2 will be focused on packaging and waste, particularly on packaging, plastics, marine litter, but starting with packaging. And the other one will be linked with food. So these are planned for the coming months. And we want to enrich them with all what it will happen in Berlin. So thank you very much indeed, and have a nice afternoon, evening.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Thanks for everything.
Thank you. Grazie.
Bye.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
مرحب بفتوحي وحبيب، فتوحي وحبيب حبايبي.
شكرا جزيلا دكتور عماد. شكرا. ميرسي. Thank you very much, Professor Scholars, Vicky, and all the colleagues.
دكتور عماد، تحياتي. جامعة الدول العربية إن شاء الله نلتقي معها قريبا.
إن شاء الله يا رب.
كل عام وأنتم بخير. فرصة سعيدة. Thank you.
شكرا.
Grazie. Ciao.
دكتور عماد تحياتي ويعطيك ألف عافية.
الله يخليك أخ دكتور أحمد، كيفك؟
هلا، تحياتي.
الحمد لله حبيبي.
للجميع.
دكتور فتوحي، دكتور عماد.
اهلا مرحبا مرحبا. اهلا طارق، اهلا اخ طارق، كيف احوالك؟ كيف احوالكم؟ الحمد لله. طيب، فرصة طيبة.
أنتوني.
شكرا لكم.
Thanks to all of you. Thanks.
Thank you, Scholars.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Take care, Michael.
All of you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for a very interesting meeting.
Thanks a lot.
Okay.